How you doing, Shaker?
I'm good. Just been busy with videos. Did the Nerd Crew kind of
Yes.
mashup? Just finished that today, so it's just been busy.
Yeah. I saw you put up a video today. So I'll have a look at that now because I think you put it up while I was at work. There was kind of like a preview, and then there was like the main one, right?
Yeah.
So we are here to kind of talk about Star Wars, The Last Jedi, and kind of full disclosure, guys, this will have spoilers there in it. So if you haven't seen the film, there, go back, watch it, and then come and join us there afterwards because there is a lot of stuff to talk about. And Sheikh, I mean, what's your kind of? Let's just first go into like overall thoughts. What's your like overall thinking about this film?
I was like really kind of shocked that it was this was the movie that it was because I was so kind of exhausted after the film and I was like, what the hell did I just watch? And I'm still kind of trying to process certain things. I'm open to people kind of telling me a little bit on why they love the movie, but I'm not seeing much of that anywhere.
Yes.
I'm seeing like typical, the video that I just finished today is a lot of the big YouTube channels, the usual suspects, talking about how it's a risk and there's so many risks taken in the movie, and I just don't see it because straight away from the opening crawl, yeah, I was thinking this is Empire Strikes Back.
Yes.
I
Yes.
couldn't believe it. It was almost word for word.
I was absolutely astonished when I saw that opening crawl because I was like, okay, are they serious? They're like the first order's coming. They're gonna now escape from their base and they're now being pursued. It's like that is exactly the same. And I was thinking maybe this is a little in joke kind of thing that people are saying this is a lot like Empire or whatever, but it literally they started off from that, and then the beats for pretty much the rest of the film was like taking a little bit from this film, taking a little bit from that, and kind of like mixing it together. Me like you, I don't get this kind of thought process that this was risky
Yeah.
because we'll go into it a little bit later. And I don't know, obviously, because we haven't talked about it there yet, whether you thought the same about me about risks that they could have taken and they bottled it. Well, obviously, we'll talk about whether you thought the same about me in those things or differently. But from when I was just seeing it, I have a lot of kind of issues with the film. I can see there are some bits which were quite good and they had the potential to be quite good. But I also look at it there as well and just think the middle film is the one that is meant to make you say, do you know what? I want to watch that last one. When I went, I don't know whether you're the same. When I went and saw the Two Towers, right?
Yeah.
I was like, I need to see that Return of the King film.
Mm.
It was just like it had to be seen. I had to
Oh
go
yeah,
and
yeah.
see it. When I watched this, it's like it's almost got a conclusion to it, pretty
Exactly.
much.
Yeah. Yeah. It was so kind of wrapped up in a nice kind of package right at the end, and I'm thinking, why should I be excited for the third film?
So what? Okay, so if you were to sum up this film in one sentence before we go into more detail of it, what would be your sentence be to describe your thoughts about this film?
It's tough to say. Overly long, frustrating, boring, missed potential.
That's I kind of would agree with you pretty much on most of those kind of things. I mean, um, for me, the main thing that I would just think is, I tweeted this over, um, that basically, from what I can see, from the critical response to The Last Jedi, that basically these critics just like watching the same film over and over and over again and just
Yeah.
like to take little scenes so the reptilian brain is kind of ticking over with the nostalgia, and then it's like this is suddenly amazing, whereas there are many opportunities of things that were missed in this. So I mean, let's talk about the storyline.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
for what off it there was. I mean, to me, there wasn't really much of a storyline. It was kind of just like a race against time kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. The like say the opening scene, right? You've
Hmm.
got what was it? The Star Destroyers. Then you had the Dreadnought. Was that the name of it?
Yeah.
And you had Poe come in, and he does this kind of jokey type Han Solo
Oh
ish
yes. Yes.
opening lines, and I think it's General Hux, whatever his name is.
Yes.
He is horrible in this film. He's like a parody of a villain, and
Yeah.
they're mocking him, and it's like I didn't expect his character to be like that in this film. Um,
This was the kind of thing, like, when they had um, in the original Star Wars in A New Hope. It was basically like you had Darth Vader, and Darth Vader was like the kind of guy who was, he was, they said about his hope, his religions and all this kind of stuff, and we don't believe in that and blah blah.
yeah,
So there was kind of a committee of generals, the Moths.
yeah,
And they all of them served the emperor, but there was always this kind of animosity between the two. At no point in that was it like the moths are a joke, the moths are just something to laugh at, or they're just like, silly or whatever. With this, it's just like, okay, they're just laughing at him like it's like a young boy who's basically taken charge of this, of the First Order. Somebody who's become a general in the First Order is not just going to be just, an absolute idiot, jokey kind of character.
yeah,
The way I kind of see it is like, in the old film, well, obviously we'll go back to the old films there a lot, but when they had that thing and they sent they sent out a code, and they're like, oh, it's an old code but it checks out. It's because you'd never get to speak to any of the higher ups if you were hailing them. You'd be speaking to a lowly communications person, right?
yeah, yeah,
There's no way you would be speaking to one of those generals in the first place. But the fact that not only does he get through to them, but also the First Order is so stupid that they don't just shoot him out of the space,
yeah.
right? It's just ridiculous. So
But not even the First Order. I thought the Resistance are stupid as anything. Like so after Poe, he takes out their gunships, and then in come the Resistance bombers. Right?
yes,
They're so huge and they're so slow. I was thinking. So I think they did have a support of X-wings, but
yeah, and
but
some
they
A
got
wings,
yeah
yeah.
they got quickly taken out by the TIE fighters, and then they were just being picked off because they were so massive and so slow. But one got through, and that was enough. But I just thought, well, like, just from a kind of design point of view, I was like, why did they send in those massive ships? And
And
you've got Leia's. She's on board on her own ship, not far away, just right in front of them. I was like, that's kind of stupid.
yeah, because there's going to obviously be a shockwave that's coming
Yeah,
from that. The whole thing is stupid, right? Especially when you look back at A New Hope and you see the fact that Luke had two torpedoes that he could fire from his, um, he could fire torpedoes from his X-wing, right?
yeah,
And it's like you're going from now, a laser guided kind of bomber in an X-wing,
yeah,
and you're then going back to World War II era bombers, right? Where it's like, oh, we got to fly directly over the target and drop these bombs that are actually activated by hand, like literally like by hand. I mean, how crap technology that they're
yeah,
actually using, right? When all that, I'm just astonished that they don't have any laser guided bombs, any kind of like, even in the prequels they had those kind of things. I remember when
yeah,
Anakin was flying. So it's like they don't have any weaponry like that at all. They've just got something that is so lumbering and stupid that,
mm,
and the thing is like, um you know then after that, obviously he's told, you know what, you've done a terrible thing, and basically there's been all this loss of life. So instead of being locked in the brig like most people would be, he's kind of like, oh, you're demoted, but it's just like a demotion in name, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
So when people say to me, oh, this is so risky, well, the risk would have been this guy is now like he's locked in jail and he has to lead a mutiny to get out of here, and kind of like what was that film? Crimson Tide, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Crimson,
Yeah.
with Denzel and
Gene
all of
Hackman.
that, and yeah, that I mean that kind of thing brings up more tension. Is he going to get out of jail? But it's just like it's just like they kind of bottled it. So then obviously they did.
It was a mutiny that wasn't really a mutiny. So we'll get to that later. How about when we get back to Luke and Ray
Oh yes.
and how they treated that scene where he just throws the lightsaber over his shoulder?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Do you
that
know
was
what?
so bad.
I'll tell you something, right? I went to go and see this with my sister-in-law because she loves Star Wars, right?
Yeah.
And she's like, I can't wait till Rey gives him the lightsaber, right?
Yeah.
And I said, I swear to God, right? I said, I would piss myself laughing if she gives it to him and he just chucks it over the cliff, right?
Mm,
And then I'm watching this, and she's like, "Oh my God, you got it right!" And I was like, I was actually joking. I was just like, that would be so stupid if they actually did that, right?
yeah.
It's it's like one thing I don't understand in this iteration of Star Wars is that they seem to basically have kiddified all of the characters. So General Hux is like the rich kid who gets his own way all the time, but now he's not getting his own way, and he's
Yeah.
kind of like Draco in Harry Potter, right? He's kind of
Right.
like that character. And then you've got Luke, who basically is like. He went through this amazing arc in the original trilogy, and he went through all of this to save his father, who was a complete scum, which we'll go through in a little bit of
Yeah.
time. And he's expected to do this, and he just becomes a petulant child, like slamming doors, like, oh no, don't talk to me, go away. It's like,
Yeah.
how old are you, man? You're like, it's like you've turned from being somebody who basically going to be leading the Jedi to a petulant child. The other weird thing was like I just found the fact that Rey was repeating herself again and again. I was just like, have they just got stuck in a scene here or something?
Yeah, her dialogue was very kind of flat. It's like, oh, Kylo Ren is strong, and we have to defeat him, and that's it.
And she goes, "Your sister sent me, Leia sent me," and it's like he had no reaction to that whatsoever. And it's just like, that was kind of weird. And obviously, it's meant to be kind of in the background. There's this other situation that is going on. So we go back to the space battle. The dreadnought has been destroyed. They have a little kind of celebration, but then Poe ends up going back to the ship, and Leia says to him, "Look, you've caused all these deaths, so I'm going to demote you." And then obviously now they're deciding, right, we're going to now chase after the rest of the fleet. And they start obviously firing at them and stuff. So firstly, the second kind of space battle. This obviously the first part was a little bit of this as well. The physics in this, the stupidest stuff I've ever seen in my entire life. I mean, literally stupid. Okay, so you're telling me we've got ships that can travel from one part of the galaxy to another and even beyond, right? And we don't we're using some kind of fossil fuel that basically runs out.
Yeah.
We like run out of this fuel. We haven't got like, there's nothing like a kind of warp core or something like that. It's just
Mm.
basically just we run out of fuel at some point, and there's nothing else that can be kind of done. So so obviously at that point, the most horrendous scene that I've probably seen this year in a film also occurs there as well when we see Kylo Ren goes into his TIE fighter, right? And he's basically going in there deciding whether they're going to blow up the command ship, and one of the TIE fighters lets off its bombs, and Admiral Akbar is obviously killed, and we see Leia going flying off into space. And I'll let you take this
I was
take
like,
this bit now.
so then you see Leia. I was like, oh shit, they've killed her, and this is it, that's it. And then they go back to her body. And I was like, the hell, this is Batman v Superman. It's like you got
Yes.
Superman in space. She's like, and then she, her hand twitches and her eyes. She opens her eyes, and she flies. Like she has this weird pose, and
Oh
she's
God.
flying through the
It's
debris, and it's like, what fucking Zack Snyder take over this film? What's happening? And it's like, how is she, like, I understand she's like, or say, she kind of has some of that force in her. She has that, she has always had it, but she's suddenly doing things that we've never seen Jedis do in these
yes.
previous movies. So now we're seeing Leia do this. Just kind of, my jaw hit the floor. I couldn't believe what I was
It
watching.
was firstly it looked horrible.
Yeah.
It was just so bizarre and just looked odd for somebody to do that. I mean, it's interesting that you say, like, we've never seen any of the other Jedi's doing it. Whenever you see a good action film, you always get progression in physicality, right? So,
Yeah.
so like in Rogue One, which I actually kind of liked, you could see that. I can't remember the other guy's name, not Jin, the other guy who's with her all the time. You see him, and he's basically like towards the start of the film, he's climbing over this thing, and he does several jumps in order to get away from the Imperials, from the Imperial soldiers. And then later on, he does an even bigger jump to get into the communications tower and stuff like that. And that kind of stuff I really love because it's basically showed that, look, this character has the ability to do something. So if they go and do something a little bit more than that later on, then it's like we can kind of accept that because it's a progression in the physicality. If you have somebody like Leia, who pretty much through The Force Awakens was either standing around or sitting down, and the only kind of response that she had was when she felt Han die and basically just sat down, right?
Yeah.
That's her physicality. And then suddenly it becomes this. Then it becomes very unreal because you can't imagine the character kind of doing that there before. So that I thought was very bizarre. And then obviously then we go back to the island there again.
Well,
And
just to stop you there, I
yeah.
mean, we did even gloss over. They killed Admiral Akbar, like they just got
Oh
rid of him.
yes.
Like I was like, what? Oh,
Yeah,
one of the
well,
most kind of fun, kind of most loved characters, and they just
yes.
got rid of him just like that.
They just finished him off, and there's no no kind of medals or anything for that dude,
Yeah.
But it's just like, yeah, that was quite sad. And then another bizarre, we go back to the island there again, and another load of just bizarreness where there's Luke just walking around this island. I mean, what was that? There was that thing when he's walking along an island and he just goes on this massive pole that he's had stuck in the ocean, goes over it, and then uses it to catch this fish and has this weird maniacal look on his face and then comes back. I'm just laughing all the way through, like, what is this?
I
This
mean,
is
I'll
such a
say
piece.
I'll say the island itself is beautiful. I just kind of love the kind of look of it, and day or night, whatever, it looks amazing. But yeah, him kind of her following him everywhere he goes. He takes you finally get to see where blue milk come from. He's
Yes.
from this thing, alien thing. Where
Yeah.
he takes the nipple and he squeezes it and he drinks it and he's like, hmm. I was like, okay, and
Yeah.
the thing looks at Ray and
Yeah, so it's
confused.
kind of like, he's regressed into like a child for no, I can't understand why he's kind of gone back in that kind of,
I
kind
think,
of
but
mode.
I would disagree. I wouldn't say he's a child. He looks, but I think they're trying to kind of show him off as another Obi-Wan Kenobi. Like that's kind of what. But then Obi-Wan was a bit more kind of
Yeah, or like a
subdued
silly
and
kind of
things.
Yoda kind of like a
Yeah,
silliness of the Yoda kind of character, right? I
yeah,
mean, there's a lot of talk about whether this was a good Luke Skywalker, and obviously we'll talk a little bit more about this. When I was looking at that, I was kind of thinking, okay, they've made him into just like this parody kind of like silly version of Luke, where it's more like you seen Tron Legacy, right?
yeah,
And Jeff Bridges in that. That's my envisioning of what Luke would have been like. The older guy doesn't really want to be into the fight or whatever because he's like this power is dangerous.
yeah,
Rather than like, I mean, he's gone to this place and he's found this so-called knowledge or whatever, and he believes that this the whole idea of the Jedi have to die and they shouldn't have this power and all this kind of stuff, right? And then go back to the First Order, don't we? And we kind of see what is going on there, and Snoke kind of talking to Kylo Ren about finding Luke Skywalker and finding Rey. I don't know whether it's for you, but for me, Snoke was just disappointing, like hugely
yeah.
disappointing in this film.
Yeah, I mean, I would say like I loved his voice, his kind of mannerisms, his the look of him. His effects I thought looked pretty good. We'll get into like what happens towards the end, if that's part of the story, but he wasn't like overall in the movie. He made kind of not no impact.
Yeah, and we've seen kind of this stuff, bloggers, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, thousands of videos. Who is Snoke?
Yeah, is he
You
Darth
know,
Plagueis and this and that?
all of this. What's his backstory? He's Darth Sidious. He's this, he's that, whatever. And, and obviously, we never get to see anything
Yeah.
about, you know,
There's a couple of things that we'll get into later. I have like couple of theories that kind of touch on all that because I
okay,
refuse to believe that this is it for this guy. I think there's more. I think there's more to come, but could be wrong. But yeah, it's like all the speculation. That's the kind of thing I keep coming back to. So much speculation about what Luke is probably going to say and what he's
mhm,
that was one of my predictions, that he is going against the Jedi now and he doesn't believe in it anymore, or he wants it to end, and that was not kind of followed through.
yes,
I feel that that line where he says this is not going to go the way you think,
yes,
right? Everyone's kind of latching on to that line. The people who are defending the film are latching on to that line and going, yeah, see, this movie kind of goes against what you think. Not really, because what the writers have done is like they've taken speculation, different points of the speculation that they teased with Force Awakens, right? They kind of
yes,
set up certain things like who's Rey's parents, because when you see the ship taking off
mm,
in our vision, they're kind of implying that that's important,
yes,
right? So then they let the fans speculate. Now, when it comes to The Last Jedi, they're like, oh, we'll tease you about her parents. Oh, but we're taking that away. Or we'll tease you something about this and that. We'll take it away.
yes.
We're going in a different direction. But the direction they're going in is nothing.
The direction they seem to be going in is the Thor Ragnarok of Star Wars. What I can see is that the entire thing about The Last Jedi is very much that they've found this direction, that this is their so-called new direction, their new, bold, amazing, different direction, right?
Mm.
Which is basically making quips, having a few kind of like shock moments, so it seems like it's really dark, right? But then everything else becomes a kind of parody. One thing I really love about films, and we've talked about this before, is scores in films, right?
Yeah.
And the beautiful John Williams score when it ended in Force Awakens, for all the faults that were with Force Awakens, the score was fantastic. And it's this kind of like thing where, they go through, they're in the Millennium Falcon, they come to this island, there's this beautiful music, right? That is like, I'm coming up, I'm about to give this lightsaber, and the look on Rey's face, it's kind of like there's going to be something epic here. There's going to be something amazing. It's going to be extremely emotional, right?
Yeah.
And then it becomes, they decide, right, okay, let's now turn it into like a jokey thing that, oh, Luke's throwing the lightsaber. Oh, that's hilarious. That works very well for like an SNL sketch, or that works for whatever. But then,
Yeah.
can you imagine that happened in Lord of the Rings? Like they had the first one the way that it was, and then the second one just became just a parody of itself. And they still had the same kind of dark moments, but they were just like taking the piss out of the main characters. And Gandalf came back in the second one, but he was just making quips and acting like a little idiot. And I just don't get it. I know they're chasing the money, and I know that is kind of the Thor Ragnarok is their template now, right?
Yeah.
You can do that. I understand. If you want to make a film like that, that's fine. But then you start like that. However, if you're starting the way that Force Awakens is, then flip to this. Then this is just, to me, is just like you're taking the piss out of the genre, as it were.
Well, they go back to the bridge,
Yes.
the Resistance bridge. You've got Laura Dern. She's introduced with her purple hair. Admiral
Yes.
Holden, whatever her name is. At first, I thought there may be some kind of relationship going on, like between Poe and her, but it doesn't go that way. Like, even though he was demoted, he still gets to talk to her in that
Yes.
way, in that kind of tone, and she doesn't really
Yeah.
do much about it. I think this is the point where we're introduced to Rose,
Yes.
between Finn and Rose. What do you think about Rose?
Well, Rose is okay. So there are things in this film that are basically there to sell other parts of the film, right?
Yeah.
So we have to have this pointless, stupid bomber raid at the start, which nobody would ever do unless it was like the last ever bomber raid that you could ever do, because then it would be a suicide run, and you're like, we've got to go and destroy the First Order because we're going to die anyway, so we'll just do it, right?
Yeah.
That sold Rose's sister. So that now gives motivation for Rose to go on this mission with Finn, because Finn, if he didn't go on that mission, would be doing absolutely nothing within this film. And then that leads to the then motivation of other characters there later on, which then facilitates the ending, which we'll obviously talk about there in a bit, which couldn't happen unless a few of these other stupid things were kind of happening, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, the Rose kind of story was like, okay, well, she's just down there on her own doing this kind of stuff, fixing the machines as an engineer or whatever. But she was a slave with her sister, and obviously her sister died, and now suddenly she's pining for her sister, but at the same time she believes that they've got to do everything for the resistance, right?
Mm.
Apart from that, she the one reason why I didn't like her is because she ruined what potentially could have been one of the most poignant things in that film, where they could have, if they didn't bottle it, would have been an amazing end to a character, an amazing kind of way to sell a scene there as well, which obviously we'll go in a little bit more when we go into a bit further in the storyline. And she has one of the stupidest lines ever that she says to Finn there towards the end, right?
Oh my
So
God,
it's like,
that was a huge eye roll moment.
yes, yeah. So basically, it's like, the way I kind of see it like that is that if she wasn't in it, then they couldn't do half of this story, right? So she
Yeah.
facilitates part of this story because they need her to like pilot this ship or whatever. But she also ruins a great deal of what could have been great moments, right? So we see obviously Rose. We're introduced to Rose. We then have Finn. That basically, he ends up telling her that he's not a hero. I thought that was okay because it's kind of like, it's very Finn like to kind of do. And then they
Yeah.
decide that they're going to go off, to this other world to find out somebody. And in order to do that, they first got told about this character by a pointless scene with Mars Kanata on some kind of view screen.
So
Doing
I heard someone say that was like EA's Battlefront 2 DLC.
oh oh yes, selling the game, right? Selling the
Yeah.
game. So then that Maz Kanata tells them about this code breaker or whatever who is on at this casino world, which I thought was going to be Lando. I thought it was going to be Lando, but anyway, they then go off to basically go to this casino world, pretty much.
The thing is, like, if they didn't go to that world, that planet, and the casino, Las Vegas type thing, Finn obviously would have nothing to do. Rose would have nothing to do. It would just be because that whole kind of scenario of the First Order kind of just following the
Yes.
resistance and their ship and the resistance, they've got their shields up. To me, it's like a tortoise following a tortoise in space. That's like half the movie.
It's the
So
most ridiculous thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
it was
Okay,
more
so
it was more Star Trek. Like I would imagine a Star Trek TV episode would be
yes,
something like this,
because
but
there's something wrong with their other engine or
yeah.
something like that. All they had to do was go into hyperspace in front of them and blast them from the other side.
But
I
they
was
have
just like, how stupid are you people?
but they've got this somehow they've got a tracker and they're able to track them now or
Yeah,
something.
no, I'm talking about the First Order, right? So
Yeah,
the First Order just needed to go into hyperspace in front of them, so they were following them, right? They send a couple of ships, go in
yeah.
front of them, blast them from the other side, done, finished. That's the end of it. And these are meant to be like, this is like the general maybe should have thought of this, but it's like, oh no, we're gonna slowly plod after them, and it's just
Mhm.
like it was just ridiculous. Honestly, it was just so
Yeah.
ridiculous.
So they they get to this casino and it just feels like a prequels kind of
Yes, 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 yes.
environment. Yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, that was very much a prequel kind of thing because they were trying to make a statement about about the way that the money comes from this thing and the political kind of aspects behind stuff, right?
Yeah,
Which I kind of understand in this day and age they were trying to make that point, right? But the problem with it is that um, it looked very much like the prequels, so it's very much kind of almost all CGI. It could have been, any of the planets, in the kind of world. There was no real. The only real reason why they wanted this code breaker was because he was at this casino, which I don't understand why he'd be at that casino there in the first place anyway.
yeah,
But there was no reason to kind of the only reason to go to that place was to facilitate the comments that they would then make to say, oh, you know what, this is really bad because these guys finance everyone, and it's just to make the political statement that there's no good guys kind of thing.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, so we end up at this planet, and then in the other background we've got the Luke and Ray situation that is kind of going on. So we have Luke is continuously trying to avoid Ray, and then at one point he ends up kind of having a contact with, when she's talking about Leia, he has a contact with Leia, and then he decides that he's going to train Ray, and basically tells Ray about these kind of three things that he's going to teach her, which I didn't count three in the end. I don't know whether he even got to the third one. And then he sees how powerful she is, and the fact that she goes into the, she sees this kind of like this like hole in the ground that is covered with seaweed and moss, right, which is meant to represent the dark side, which is in the island somewhere, right? And she goes and reaches out for the dark side and ends up going for that first, and he kind of has to shout at her to get her away from that. So that's when we see the bit where, you know, you were talking about, where they start teasing the thing with the parents. She goes down to the dark side because she's wanting to get answers, right? She's wanting to get an answer for who her parents are, and she basically just kind of sees herself. And Luke decides, right, you know, he's seen this in Kylo Ren there before, and he decides, right, you know what, I need to get away from this because this dark side power is like, you know, is immense that she's got within her, right?
Yeah, I didn't like. Again, this was like another callback to what Dagobah in the original trilogy when Luke goes into the cave. But here it's like, oh, you see the two figures approaching. Like, well, but the first thing is like this is kind of visual of her, and it's kind of repeated, and she's clicking her fingers and all that.
Yes.
It doesn't like why is how is this place? Why is it on the island? I don't understand. It's
Yes.
very convenient that this dark side of the force
Why
is
would
now
the
also
Jedi
represented here on the island.
Yeah, I mean, why would the Jedi build their temple on top of like a portal that is going directly to the dark side?
Yeah,
Seriously, I mean, if they're thinking about, okay, we want to learn about the Force binds everything, and Luke said that, you know, he read the Jedi text, and that really turned him off the Jedi, because he was like, you know, the Jedi think that they should be able to control the Force, they should be able to, you know, control the light side, but there's also the dark side, there's also whatever, you know, none of it belongs to you. Why then would they build their temple on a dark side nexus that basically any of their students could just fall into at any point, you know, and
yeah,
become evil or whatever? Because many of them would have fallen to that temptation if they didn't really know, you know, what was kind of going on. And then obviously, then you wouldn't get the Jedi religion continuing.
yeah.
So I kind of found that I found that a little bit odd. But then we get the Rey and Kylo Ren link.
Yeah, so this is like the by now it's like the third time they've linked each other because
Yes.
there's two previous scenes where they kind of get linked, and I really like Adam Driver. I think he's an excellent actor. I like Kylo Ren. These so you get to see it just you get to see just more of Kylo Ren in this film, but I don't see any kind of progression from what he was in the last film.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
for the people who say he's emo and he's childish, I don't feel that way, but people say that. I would imagine they're kind of still thinking, yeah, he's still like that.
This is when we start to hear stuff that she sees stuff in him that he's good, right? You know, he
Yeah,
has
yeah.
good inside him.
That's like it's another tease that the writers are teasing. Oh, you want Kylo Ren to possibly, you know, kind of come to a middle ground agreement with Rey and like take on everyone, which is what one of my kind of predictions that like I was hoping for. So they kind of touch on that, and then they take that away as well. So for them to say she sees good in him,
Yes.
for me it's like, okay, is this just another tease that's just going to go nowhere?
Yes. And to be
Um,
honest,
yeah,
that would have honestly made a lot more sense and been a lot more poignant, because then they go, you know, when they go up to the casino and they're like, you know, both of these sides are in the business of war. Both these sides do bad things, as we've seen in Rogue One. And then it would have made more sense, because then it's kind of like, okay, well, Ray and Kylo could have joined together. And if they wanted to be risky, then it's kind of like, well, both the Republic and the First Order are bad, because they're both, you know, they're both warmongers. They both want their own way. They both want to govern in a certain way,
hmm,
right? And those two could have been the middle ground. You know, you've got one dark, one light, and they kind of have to join together in order to, to show everyone that, look, there's a middle kind of road here, not one way to kind of do things. And
Then
then obviously,
Luke comes in.
yes. Yeah, and then Luke comes in and he kind of like sees it, and Ray, is saying, I see that there is good in him, and I think if I go to him, then I can, I can bring him to the light side in effect, and that's when we're kind of thinking, okay, this is very much like, the Return of the Jedi kind of
Yeah.
ending kind of thing, right? And this is Luke's like, this is not going to turn out the way that you kind of want it to turn out, but Ray's like, look, believe me, I can do it, I can bring him back. And
This was the scene where we kind of find out what happened in the past between
yes, oh yes, yes,
Luke
sorry,
and
yeah.
Luke and Kylo Ren.
We have this guy who is a much older guy, and he sees the power in this other individual who's generally been good at the moment, but has a huge amount of power, and he fears that he is going to become evil. He hasn't become evil there yet, and decides that he's going to kill him. And then has, according to Kylo, obviously he wanted to kill him, but then, as we know there later, he kind of had second thoughts, right?
Yeah.
So
And then so at that point, Kylo Ren. So like you're kind of told it from both sides, but
yes,
basically what it is, he saw the darkness in him.
yeah,
He's ready to kill him with his lightsaber, and then he says it was a fleeting moment, and then it was gone, the urge to kill him.
yes,
But by then, Kylo Ren's looking up at him. It's a misunderstanding that
yes,
triggers all this.
yes,
Um, so Kylo Ren must have killed everyone in the Jedi Temple,
yes.
taken a few of his friends and run away. I guess
Hmm.
that might be the Knights of Ren. We might find out who they are. We might get to see them in the third film,
Yes,
because he might need some kind of help since Snoke is dead.
yes.
Um, but I was thinking, like, if so that's happened, why did Luke kind of become a coward and
Oh, yes,
not go after Kylo Ren? And I know he's his nephew, right? Now you can say, "Oh, okay, so I'm sorry, Leia, I failed you. I saw the darkness in him, but I failed you. I'm sorry." At least she would say, "Okay, you know what? Go out and get him. If you need to kill him, then kill him." I'm sure they could kind of write that in. Go back to Obi-Wan Kenobi, right? He's
yes,
he's hiding on the planet in episode 4. Well, in episode 3, he takes the two kids, he separates them, and he's keeping an eye on Luke.
yes,
He sees him get older, but he's all the Jedi's have been wiped out. So Obi-Wan Kenobi is on his own. He's not going
hmm,
to fight the Empire. Um, so that, yeah, I can understand that, but I cannot understand Luke Skywalker, because of this one incident. He's
yes,
decided to just give up and hide on like a coward in the island,
yeah,
while Kylo Ren
yes.
gets stronger and stronger. I don't get that.
A few things about this. I can't believe that I actually missed this bit out, because there is a lot to talk about in this. Firstly, I turned to my sister-in-law and I was like, when he's like, Luke is shrouded in green and he's about to kill Kylo Ren, I was like, Martha, like that, right? Because basically it's the same kind of thing. You've got this guy, he's basically coming, he fears this other guy is going to become so powerful that he's going to become evil, and he decides to go and kill him with this green glowing thing. I just found that just funny. But it's just like, but then it's like, you have Darth Vader, which we know, has done all this kind of stuff. We know that he's killed all these Jedi. Luke knows all of this stuff that Obi-Wan's told him. He's seen him murder Obi-Wan in front of his eyes. All of this kind of stuff, right?
Yeah,
And he pursues him, and he's like, "I know there's good in you. I can change you. I can do this." But with Kylo Ren, he decides, oh, he's evil, so I'm going to kill him before he starts to become evil in the first place. That, for me, is a fundamental change to the character, because then
Mm.
it's like, you're straight away saying the potential for this person to become evil means that I can't make any attempt to try and save this person. And the problem is that previously in all of the other iterations, we've seen Luke trying to save people, and he makes this huge effort of trying to save his father, even though his father is a total piece of scum,
Yeah.
individual, right? He goes through all of this stuff trying to save him. But Kylo Ren at that point has done nothing wrong. He's done absolutely nothing. He's seen him get a little bit angry, as he says in training. He's seen him get angry. He's seen him, maybe he might go to the dark side, and he's seen a lot of dark side power in him. And his first thing is, I'm gonna go and kill this guy. When I just looked at that, I was like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
Right? Wouldn't he be like, I tried to change him. I tried as much as I could do, I tried absolutely everything, but he continued to go down this path, right?
Yeah.
The fact that he tries to kill him while he's in his bed, asleep, and then he goes off and becomes a coward is just like, you're a coward for trying to kill a child, right? Because they might have become something, and you're a coward because you've gone and then hidden afterwards because you can't face the consequences of your actions.
Mm.
And to me, that's pretty much the worst parts of the way that this film is, because it is it's really kind of changed fundamentally what Luke Skywalker is.
Mm.
That Luke Skywalker was meant to be this kind of beacon and all this kind of stuff, but now, because one incident where Kylo Ren goes off and his Jedi temple gets burnt or whatever, he just decides, do you know what? I'm not going to bother going and doing anything, and I'm just going to go and live by myself, and that's it. Because
I
he
mean,
did the,
yeah,
he went for his dad.
yeah. I mean, the thing as well, it's like because there's parts of the film that's very uneven, and that scene where he's about to kind of kill him, I thought it was very kind of horror-ish. I thought it
Yes.
was beautifully filmed. I loved the kind of the look of that scene,
Mm.
but an idea and it's not kind of fully kind of thought out. I don't think they kind of thought it out as well as it could have,
Yeah.
and because you don't even get to see the massacre at the
Yeah. You
Jedi
don't.
temple or nothing.
You don't see the massacre. You don't see the bit there before where it's like, you just take it on his word that he was basically, he was doing stuff that made him go more to the dark side and all this kind of stuff. You take it on his word that, that Kylo Ren potentially could have done this or whatever. You don't see any kind of destruction, or like, that he was doing stuff that basically made him potentially go towards that evil side, and it kind of worried him. It was just like, what you see is an old man trying to murder a child because potentially he could become evil. And there are huge defenders of this scene. I've seen this, I've been looking at social media, huge defenders that this is so risky. I don't see that as risky at all. I kind of see that as just like, when Ryan Johnson pitched that to the Mouseketeers, he must have said like, oh, look at this, we're going to do this, and they must have been like, rapturous applause, like, oh, that's so edgy, and it's not, it's just stupid. I can't see how it kind of fits in there. So in the next bit, obviously, we're still going on with this stupid casino scene, right?
Yeah, yeah,
We see the fact that these kind of horse kind of things are getting whipped and stuff like that, and this is why humans are bad. They end up going and it's finding Benicio Del Toro, who is in the same kind of jail that they end up in because they get arrested.
yeah. At
He
this
ends
at
up.
this at this point of the film, I was like, I was kind of zoning out. I was like,
Yes.
this is what? Why are we here? I can't. I was like, oh yeah, oh that's right. Benicio Del Toro is in this film. I
Yes.
completely forgot. And then he's got this stupid stutter.
Oh, yes,
It's like
yes,
the guy's already got this very kind of particular voice accent, and then you
yes,
put a stutter on top. It's really annoying. And then okay, then turns out to be a hacker as well. Um, I've got the BB-8 scene where he's shooting coins at the
yes.
guards.
I thought BB-8 was actually all right in this film. I kind
Yeah,
of
yeah.
liked BB-8 in this. I
He
thought,
he gets a pass.
yes, yeah, he's pretty much one of the only ones that gets a pass in this film. But I like BB-8 in this film. But
And how about R2D2? For some reason, he's like in like offline or low power mode for
yes,
2 movies now, and like he comes a lot. He comes online towards the end of the first one. Here he only has like maybe one or two scenes, and
yes,
that's the one where he meets Luke in the Millennium Falcon. That scene was quite good, where he kind of projects the image of Leia, kind
yeah,
of
yeah,
like
yeah.
a little cheap move. But yeah, R2D2 again is another kind of don't have much for him to do.
Yeah, it's just for the fact of getting him in this film, pretty much,
Yeah, yeah,
and then because obviously him and C3PO are in every single one, but then they end up at this kind of thing with these horses, and
yeah.
there are these kind of slave children that live with these horses. So we were saying there before that there are scenes that are there to introduce other bits that within the film, and you have these like slave children, which I think is meant to say a bit about what Ray was, and Ray, as we're going to talk about there in a moment, about what Ray's parents are like, and these children have the same kind of background as Ray, I guess,
Hmm.
and because of that, then potentially they can become something more from it. So we're just randomly introduced to these kind of slave kids, and one thing leads to another that end up Rose and Finn and Benicio del Toro and BB-8 end up getting off this planet, and heading back to the slowest battle in the world, that is in the galaxy, that is occurring around here. So basically, they can get on the First Order ship, in order to input this kind of code that stops them from detecting hyperspace.
Yeah,
Before that, we see that Ray is talking to Luke and saying that, look, I can turn Kylo Ren, and in very much of a Return of the Jedi kind of thing, where, well, obviously Luke was in the shuttle, but we see that Ray is in this kind of like pod that comes out from the Millennium Falcon, and
yeah.
basically she ends up on Snoke's ship, and she's greeted by Kylo Ren, and they end up putting her in cuffs, and she's taken away to Snoke. And this part actually leads into to probably the only really good scene in this film.
And it's again, it's like it's taken from Return of the Jedi.
Yes. So once again, we have this kind of like, wizened character, who's sitting on this kind of throne thing, and we've got Kylo Ren is the bad guy. Now he's really happy because Kylo Ren has brought him Rey. Um, he starts talking some, Snoke starts saying some random stuff about, I need to find out where Skywalker is, which is just like, there must, if they don't answer this in number nine, right, then it's just fundamentally stupid.
Yeah,
Why does he need to know where Skywalker is? What has Skywalker done to him, right? That is basically making it that he needs to know where Skywalker is. Why does he want to kill Skywalker? What is his beef with Skywalker, right?
and then another thing is like he says he linked his Kylo Ren's
Yes,
mind with Rey. So if he can link them together, surely he can
yes,
find out where that planet is and where
yes.
Luke is. So why does he need Rey?
and just bomb it to smithereens. Like literally just go on a bomber raid and just destroy it.
Yeah, but
What's the issue?
I mean,
Um,
imagine he wants to get just like the Emperor, I guess. He just wants to get rid of all the Jedi and have all the
yes.
control, and fair enough. But yes, he could have kind of explained it a bit more. I would like to know if there was any kind of. I mean, obviously he turned Kylo Ren away from Luke,
Yes.
but what other reason was there behind it?
Yeah. So I mean we have this thing obviously very much like Return of the Jedi where Rey thinks that she can turn Kylo Ren
Mhm.
and the Snoke goes into this kind of very much like the torturing kind of phase. I mean, he's super overpowered. He's so
Yeah.
ridiculously overpowered. It's unbelievable. But Rey tries to reach for the lightsaber, much like Luke did against the Emperor. But instead of Kylo Ren trying to stop him, we just see this, him using this lightning, and it's just so powerful. He's so massively overpowered. We then kind of the scene with Kylo Ren and Rey, them facing each other, and that after showing us a few scenes earlier how massively overpowered Snoke is, like so much more powerful than Rey and Kylo Ren, like ridiculously more powered. He shows Rey the same kind of thing in Return of the Jedi. Like, look, there's the fleet. It's gonna get destroyed. Look at the fleet. There's
There's
your
nothing you can do about
resistance.
it.
Yeah, blah de blah de blah. Sits back down in his, in his throne, and then kind of we get the Rey and Ren kind of facing each other. So do you want to describe this this scene that we
So
see here?
yeah, so Kylo Ren, right? Before it was Snoke was saying, "Well, I can sense this in you and that in you. You're weak and you're conflicted, right?" So,
Hmm.
for some reason he can't sense that in him now, and so he's telling, "Oh, this is what Ren's going to do. He's going to pick up that lightsaber, and he's going to strike down his real enemy or whatever he says." But he's got another, Snoke has got the other lightsaber right here, right next to him,
Yes.
next on his throne. I take it that's Luke's lightsaber.
Yes.
Snoke went from the most believable, for me anyway, a
Hmm.
believable, successor to the Emperor. He's badass. He's powerful. Some things you would have to take this guy down with an army, but no, he gets he doesn't see the conflict. So all of a sudden now, and or he can't see what Kylo Ren is thinking, and the lightsaber turns and cuts him in half. And I was like,
Yeah. And that's
how?
it.
So what is this? Was it that kind of some kind of Jedi poker face that Kylo
Yeah.
Ren was putting on? I don't get it. How did Snoke not know that that was going to happen? I don't get it.
And he's just done. That's it.
That's it. All that's
End of
all.
Snoke.
Yeah, all the speculation about, oh, is he Darth Plagueis? Is he Darth Sidious? Came back? Oh, what is he? Oh, no, I guess you'll never find out. But that's the thing. Um, do you think he is, Darth Plagueis, and he is going to return?
I don't know. I mean, we see this scene there later on when General Hux is walking along, and he sees parts of Snoke on the floor.
Yeah.
And I was kind of thinking, are we going to see a little hint of something like a finger moving or something like that, to kind of show like he's got this kind of something inside him that is gonna mean that he's gonna live on. But we obviously see nothing like that. But kind of before that, we do actually see quite a good scene when Rey and Kylo Ren team up and they end up fighting against the guards
Yeah.
who I don't know. I didn't know whether they were going to be revealed as the Knights of Ren or something like that. But basically, they're all together and they're fighting against against Rey and Kylo Ren, which for me generally, I mean, there were some silly things in that battle, which you can gloss over, like Kylo Ren just hitting his lightsaber into the floor for no reason and things like that. But generally that was well choreographed. I thought I could feel the blows that they were doing there as well, and I did like that scene. That scene quite a lot. I like the way that they were there together and stuff like that. And then we see
it was beautifully shot. It was like really, but probably one of the best action scenes in it.
Yeah, I mean, it looked absolutely fantastic. And then we then see, the very typical Kylo Ren saying to Rey, "Come and join me. We can rule the galaxy together." Hand out like Anakin did, to Padme, saying, "We'll have our empire, blah blah. It needs to start anew. Let the resistance die." Same, very similar to Anakin prequels kind of thing. And we then see that Rey realizes that, he's bad and decides that she's basically going to cut him down with a lightsaber. And then we see them battling each other for this lightsaber, which is quite important to see that this lightsaber gets broken in half. Right. Yeah. And both of them see that this lightsaber is broken in half. And this will become important in a few scenes later on down the line, which shows the stupidity of Kylo Ren.
But like that scene, I was like, okay, I know she's not going to join him because she's not been through that much to go against, Finn and the Resistance and Leia. She's not going to go against them. They've not done anything to her. So I was like, yeah, there's no way she's going to turn.
Yeah. And there was, it wasn't like it was very tense that they're going to go and join together or anything like that. It was kind of, I was hoping it might be, because then it's just like, two kind of like, a light side and a dark side there together, and just them just ruling, I think would be immense. But obviously they don't have the balls to do something like that. So
yeah, that would have been a risk, but they're not going to take that.
We're not going to take a risk. Yeah. So then we obviously go. This lightsaber gets broken in half. Kylo Ren goes flying across the other side of the room. Rey escapes. Back on the Millennium Falcon. And then we see the fan that we go back to the fan favorite, Captain Phasma, the most pointless character in the new trilogy. When a few years ago, probably 2013, 2014, when there was a lot of these photos coming out about Captain Phasma, and we knew his Gwendolyn Christie was going to do it, who was famous from, Game of Thrones, and there was all this hype and all this kind of stuff. And it didn't really live up to the hype much in The Force Awakens. It was kind of like very throwaway. That was it. She was done. I was kind of thinking, do you know what? In this one, she's going to be like a badass character. It's going to be, but then it's the same kind of thing, bettered in combat fairly easily, generally a stupid character, is okay at fighting, but
just disappointing. One of the coolest looking characters for the past few years, and again, nothing from her. I hope, part of me kind of hopes that she does come back for a third film, and they actually do something with her next time, because like, come on, it's like they introduced these crap characters like Rose and the Benicio Del Toro.
But yeah, I mean, Captain Phasma, super cool looking, really could have been awesome, but was just crap, basically.
Unfortunately,
died a kind of pointless death. And then we get back to this, this kind of thing with the Resistance there again, and we're back with the Resistance, and basically,
there's some kind of mutiny going on.
There's a mutiny that isn't quite a mutiny, because he hasn't,
he doesn't achieve anything.
Poe Dameron hasn't really been locked up anywhere. He's just kind of been just just sitting. He's been walking around, being able to say whatever he likes. Being able to insult the general. Do whatever, calls her a coward. Stuff like that, which would get you locked up within 2 seconds. Just all this kind of stuff, and then decides to lead a mutiny because he thinks what her plan is that basically she's going to get far enough away that they can't see the fact that they've got these small transports that are going to go down to their rebel base.
Yeah.
And he thinks that's a very cowardly action and they should turn around and fight. So he decides to lead a mutiny. And before he gets too far in his mutiny, Leia wakes back up and just says to him, look, you're an idiot. You killed all these people. This is our plan. This is what we're going for. And we see them escape on the transports back to this kind of rebel base, which they've kind of found, this rebel base of Crate, which is like a very heavily fortified base. They want to go back to this base so that basically they're protected. But before that happens, we realize that Benicio Del Toro has told General Hux that there are these transports that are escaping. So a lot of the transports get destroyed on their way down, and we only get a handful of people making their way down to the base. And the First Order follows them with this really massive gun that they're going to use to basically go and break into the base.
I mean, before that, even what happens is they start attacking some of the ships. Some of the ships start escaping because Benicio del Toro's told them. And then Laura Dern, she turns round her ship and then she hyperspeeds right into the First Order ship. Just kind of another more kind of sacrifice, suicide bombers, whatever the resistance are doing these days. And why didn't she just do that before? Like she was the one.
Why didn't all of them do it? Why didn't the frigates, all those ones that were running out of fuel, and there was one pilot left on it? They knew they were going to die anyway. Why didn't they all of them go on a suicide run?
Yeah. It's weird.
If she had enough energy left for hyperdrive, the whole point was that basically they couldn't go into hyperdrive because they'd then end up finding them in another place, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, what she could have done was instead of them going, the whole point was they wanted to go down to the rebel base because then they'd be able to use the communications. They would communicate to their friends on the outer rim. Then their friends would hyperdrive in. Once their friends would hyperdrive in, then they'd be saved. They'll have a huge fleet, right? Why didn't she, or at least one of these ships, hyperdrive out to the outer rim, go and get their friends and come back? Rather than let's go on this really slow plodding thing to the rebel base so we can get a message out and then maybe somebody might come to kind of help us. So we end up getting on this thing where we're on the base. We've got Kylo Ren and Hux down there. We've got all of the big characters. So we've got Finn, we've got Rose, we've got Poe Dameron who is there. They're all on this salt flat kind of thing, which I thought looked really beautiful, to be honest. I'm not going to say anything about that. I thought that looked amazing. And we see the Millennium Falcon doing its thing, annoying the Imperial fleet and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But very similar to the Death Star, very similar to the Star Killer. We've got this massive gun that they're kind of gonna have to stop. And what they do is that they've got these very kind of rickety old kind of transport kind of things that they're going to use to go and fight against the ground troops of the First Order in order to buy enough time until the rebel fleet arrives in order to kind of save them. And this is where I see the thing that I hate the most about the Rose character, right? So we see Finn is going through all this thing. He's been running all the time. We see him earlier in this casino. He's loving the casino because he sees the money there. He sees the freedom, all of this kind of stuff. Never really wants to get involved into this rebel stuff. The only reason why he goes is to go and say, go and help Rey. The whole point of his thing is to help Rey, right? So when we get towards the point where he's, they're at the rebel base and they decide to go out and they decide to go and fight the First Order. At that point, that's his character arc. His character arc is there now that he's become somebody who fights for the rebels, right?
Yeah.
And we see this massive gun. This massive gun, if it powers up, will break down the blast doors to the rebel base. If it destroys the rebel base doors, then they can get in, or the troops can get in, they can kill the rebels, because they generally don't have the weaponry or don't have the kind of equipment that the First Order have. So Finn basically decides that he's going to go on a suicide run with his kind of transport into the gun.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. And once he's going in there, he's heading right for it. Right. Poe Dameron, who is meant to be the commander of this kind of group, is saying like, no, we have to peel off. We're all going to die. We can't do it. He's deciding that at that point, his arc is that basically, he's allowed so many people to die that, now we have to live and fight another day.
Yeah.
But Finn decides, because his arc is that he's going to now help the rebels out, right? Rather than going and running and helping Rey, he's going to go and help the rebels. And he's heading directly for this gun, right? He will die. There's no two ways about it. But the gun will be destroyed. And if the gun is destroyed, then the rebels will get saved. But this pointless Rose character just comes and knocks him out the way of the gun.
Almost kills him.
Almost kills him. Right, almost kills herself, and is just like, why the hell did you do that?
There's a couple of things. I mean, Finn, if he did actually sacrifice himself, if he did die, I wouldn't really care, because he's not really done much for me.
Yes.
Hasn't really been around too long for me to care about his kind of sacrifice. And then on the other hand, Rose comes in, knocks him out. They have this scene.
Yes.
As the guns going off in the back. So.
Yeah, and she's like, we're gonna win this by love, not
She
destroying
says
stuff or something like that.
No, we have to stop fighting what we hate and protecting what we love, or some crap like that. And then she kisses him. I was like, where the hell did this come from?
It was just odd, but also for me, it destroys what we see a little bit later in the film, which is right towards the end, and we're getting towards the end there now. Yeah. But there is a little bit towards the end of the film which to me didn't make a great deal of sense. But if Finn did kill himself, and even if he was because the blast doors didn't need to come down, to be honest. I mean, if the blast doors didn't come down, you still would have had they still would have tried to escape. You still would have had this kind of situation, but if Finn went and did sacrifice himself, then to me, the bit that occurs just before the end will be more poignant, and I'll go through that in a little bit more detail in a moment. So we kind of see that the blast doors end up coming down from this big weapon. And the rebels know that they're going to end up getting killed. It's kind of like, this is the end of it. And then we see Luke Skywalker kind of coming down. Leia sees him, and we have this little kind of moment about, him and Leia talking about Kylo and how he's not going to bother trying to save him. And he's here to like finish it, and that's it. So we end up seeing Luke Skywalker coming out, and Kylo Ren is just like, look, just fire at this guy as much as you possibly can. The First Order points all of their guns at him, massive barrage, and we see all this kind of sand, this red sand flying up and stuff. And then when the smoke clears, we see Luke Skywalker. He's still standing there. He does this very kind of, quippy kind of brushing his shoulder off kind of thing. And then Kylo Ren's like, get me down there now because I want to fight him. Now, this is the point when I just kind of think Kylo Ren is stupid, because in the scene before, him and Rey were fighting, and they had this lightsaber, and they basically were fighting to get this lightsaber, which for pretty much the whole of the Force Awakens, he was obsessed with this bloody lightsaber, right? He
Oh
was like,
yeah.
the lightsaber's mine, give it to me, it's my lightsaber. What? Okay, so he wants this lightsaber, right? He's destroyed it. Him and Rey have destroyed it. It's in half. He knows it's in half. He's seen it go in half.
Yeah.
Then he sees Luke appear with this fully formed lightsaber, exactly the same as the one he just destroyed. He doesn't. This guy is meant to be a massively powerful Force user, and he ends up starting to fight Luke. And Luke is dodging and ducking and all this kind of stuff. But then Kylo Ren ends up besting him and kind of, uses lightsaber and kind of supposedly cuts him in half. But we see Luke is fully intact. And the reason being is because it's a projection of Luke's kind of avatar kind of thing.
Yeah.
He's projecting it. He's still on the island, and he's there, and he's like fighting Kylo Ren. So Kylo Ren never clocks at any point that he's fighting this avatar of Luke. He never clocks that this this lightsaber is now fully formed there again, and it allows the rebels to escape, and it allows the rebels to escape with Rey helping them escape by basically removing these boulders from the back end of this rebel base.
Yeah, I mean, see, that's the thing. It's like the Resistance are so stupid that they've kind of trapped themselves in this kind of dead end almost, right? I don't know, like it's a huge planet, and you've only got one rebel base, and it's a dead end. I didn't understand that, and it's like they didn't have time to check. I'm sure one of them said that BB-8 has had a look, and there's no exit or something.
Yeah, it was C-3PO was like, oh, there's nothing, no exit or whatever.
Yeah.
And then they end up finding these desert creatures. They've found some way out.
Yeah, the crystal foxes, which look really nice. Those crystal foxes, because there was a scene where the Resistance, they're kind of standing there talking, and the foxes are all around them in the space. I thought that would look really cool. But it's like the foxes, you're relying on the foxes to show you the way out. It was just like stupid.
Yeah. So the foxes are kind of showing them the way out of this thing. That to me was very kind of Lord of the Rings Two Towers kind of thing, where they end up going to Helm's Deep, and they're just like, let's go to this place. This is our last bastion. We're gonna fight here. Nobody has ever penetrated the gate there, and this is kind of what it is. So to me, that was very much kind of Lord of the Rings. That they were trying to evoke there. But the beauty of Lord of the Rings is you have these massive armies. You have these huge armies that are fighting against each other, which shows the might of Mordor. That they've come with this massive army, and they had a few kind of they're not AT-ATs. I think they're different, but they had a few of those. But when you compare that to the kind of armies that they had in Rogue One, when they had these ground forces, there was nothing like it. So they so it can't really compare in that way. I did like Rey doing the rocks, because kind of I really do like it in films when they have something there before that shows a little bit of the power, and then later on they kind of use that in an increased kind of way. So we saw her lifting rocks towards the start of the film, and now she's using more power and lifting these rocks. So I thought that was kind of a cool progression of her power, that she's kind of learning, and she's using it in a more advanced way, although it was very easy for her to kind of lift these rocks up. Then we end up getting the entire Resistance on the Millennium Falcon, which I don't know how many people were on there, but they all end up on the Millennium Falcon, and they end up kind of going away and saying, like, how are we going to start a new Resistance? This is the only lot that we've got. And then the whole point is that we this is all that we need, because wherever there is people that are oppressed, or wherever there's people that are treated badly, they're always going to look up for the rebels, right?
Yeah, well, that's kind of bullshit because it's like Leia said, we've or C-3PO said we've sent out a message, but no one's came to help us. It's like
Yes.
I was like fucking. That's a bit depressing, isn't it? So now what?
Exactly.
So they've got no friends now in the galaxy. What's happening?
Yeah, so it's like nobody. We've got friends in the outer rim. Well, no, you haven't. So then, so then, what they're trying to. So we then go from that, and we go back to the casino world, and we see on this casino world that we have those three slave kids there again, and they're talking about one of the slave kids is talking about Luke Skywalker,
Yeah.
which was meant to have come from the fact that they'd seen these rebels who had turned up, right?
Yeah.
They'd seen these rebels who had turned up, which is why, I mean, logically, when I look at this, okay, they're talking about, okay, we have these rebels, and we know we've got these people who wherever they are, wherever they're oppressed, we're going to have people who will come, and they'll be, they'll want to come to the resistance. So if we look at what those kids have seen, they've seen Rose, and they've seen Finn, and they've seen them go against their kind of slave masters. They've seen them go against these casino guys. They've seen them free these horses, right?
Yeah.
Now, if there was kind of like these kids were seeing, and they were gathered around like a hollow news thing or something like that, and the hollow news was saying something about, that Finn had, this rebel had kind of killed himself trying to stop this massive weapon and all this kind of stuff, then it would be like, okay, yeah, these kids have seen Finn before. They know that now Finn has killed himself to kind of like protect the rebels, and there is something to fight for here. What are those kids going to be related to Luke Skywalker about?
Yeah.
It's I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to say, okay, we see this slave kid at the end, and he kind of uses a force power to pick up this broom,
Yeah.
right? That is kind of against the wall. It's like, oh yeah, okay. Anyone, even a slave kid who has no kind of no kind of background or anything like that. The same as what Kylo Ren says to Rey. We hear that her parents were nothing. They were just some junkers who just kind of left her. There was
Oh yeah.
nothing.
Yeah, that line was really kind of, again, just going against what the fans have been speculating, just because it's almost like they're trolling the fans, like, oh, we don't care what kind of speculation you had or what kind of theories you had. Yeah, she's nobody. She doesn't have a part in the story. She's
Yeah,
nobody. Her parents were nobodies. But yeah, she's a Jedi.
yeah, and that was the thing. And it's like, basically, we see then obviously this kid is potentially going to become a Jedi there in the future. And I forgot a bit there before, which we'll talk about there in a second.
Yeah. So how about, like, before this last scene, you get
Yes,
Kylo Ren. He goes further into the base. He picks up these dice that um, Luke Skywalker would have taken from the Millennium Falcon.
yes,
And obviously these dice, these version of the dice is the kind of hologram,
yes,
projection or whatever. He would have handed to Leia. Leia would have left them there for Kylo Ren to find. I don't think she would have
yeah,
just dropped them, but she would have left them there. And then you get Kylo Ren he's linking his mind again to Rey. Is that because it's the distance between them is closer, so they're able to do it, or do you think that's still someone linking their
yeah.
minds?
I think that maybe they're kind of hinting that they had that ability anyway. That
Yeah,
there has to be there's something else that is basically the light and the dark side, and also from what I've heard there today, I think it was today or yesterday, that the guys making this trilogy don't actually know themselves, because from what I saw there today, I don't know who shared it, but I read it on Twitter that J.J. Abrams has just submitted his treatment
yeah, because
for episode
and I
9.
and I tweeted at that, as I said, shouldn't they have had this story set out before they
Yeah,
even made Force Awakens, the trilogy story. They should have had it set out. It's like this, this is Star Wars. You would expect them to have it all
yeah.
done.
So
Uh,
they didn't really know where they wanted to go on the last one. So that's basically just what happened. Really, they just went for it, and that's kind of it. But we have this kind of thing where Luke ends up, he's after he's fought Kylo Ren, he's had, he's expended so much energy
yeah,
that it's just like, do you know what? I can't do it anymore, and he ends up just disappearing into thin air like Obi-Wan did and like Yoda did. And
you,
it
you
was
get
just like,
you get the really nice shot with the two suns and
yes.
the
And
his music.
I thought, okay, that's fine, but then it's like, is that it? Is he gone? Is that the end of it?
Mm.
Are we never going to see any? He just decides that he's gonna fight Kylo Ren, and then he's gone, and that's it.
I would if I was to kind of write him into episode 9, I would say he could like turn up because he says to Kylo Ren, "See you around, kid." And
Yeah.
he's like, I'd imagine he's kind of a go-between
Yes.
between Rey and Kylo Ren. Could write him in that way, but it's kind of silly that Carrie Fisher, she's dead in real life, but her character
Yeah.
survives in this film, and then Luke dies in this film, but he's actually alive in real life, and you're not going to use him. So it's
Yeah.
like, what?
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things where I think, are you gonna go and see it again? Do you think?
I've seen it twice,
Okay.
because I was like, it's one of those weird things, man. I was like, I watched it in IMAX on the Thursday. Um, Pretty much got everything straight away. Wasn't kind of confused about much. The next day I went to see it again, like a regular 2D screening, just because I was so angry. I was like, "What the hell is this movie? I need to watch it again."
Yes.
So I watched it twice, and still I don't. It was a very jarring movie. It was very, kind of remixing ideas from Return of the Jedi, Empire Strikes Back, and you have all these reviewers on YouTube saying, "Oh, it has elements from those movies, but it's not really a remake." Well, obviously, nobody's saying it's a remake, but everyone's saying you keep borrowing ideas from those movies,
Yes.
and you've got this new trilogy, it's a new era. You would think, yeah, a risk would, they keep saying risk and chances. A risk would have been telling a very linear story
Yeah.
instead of doing the usual, or here's something happening here, here, and here, and it all comes together with like three different kind of plots come together, which is, we've seen this.
Yeah. I mean, all the risks that they could have done, they bottled pretty much. I mean, they bottled the Finn death. They bottled all these kind of little things that they could have made risky, but in the end it's not risky. People are saying, oh, it's because you don't understand the story, you don't understand the complexity, but it's like, it's not complex, it's very simple to understand. It's one of the most straightforward things that I've ever seen. It's just like, I kind of grew up with different types of films, and I understand people like different types of films there, but for me, kind of, if I'm seeing a film, it doesn't all have to have like elements in it which are just there's dark bits, like shocking bits, and then there has to be like silly humor in the middle. I don't understand why that kind of has to be a template. I mean, my kind of some of my favorite films, Last of the Mohicans, Dark Knight, obviously, things like that. You can tell a storyline, and you can be edgy and you can be different there at the same time, but you don't have to continually put in these elements that are just like little quips and little jokes, because because it's like better. I understand it's Star Wars, so it's very much aimed at children, so they have to have the porgs in there so they can sell that for Christmas and
we
stuff
never
like
talked
that.
we never talked about the porgs.
Yes.
What did you think?
Do you know, Porgs, they're not as bad as Jar Jar,
Yeah.
but they're worse than the Ewoks, I think, because they're just like they're only there just to look kind of a little bit cute and kind of just I mean general overall if you're going to give your overall kind of rating for this film and whether it's worth watching and whether you're excited for the ones that are further on, what would you say about it?
Um, for this one, I would like for Force Awakens, I was like 7 out of 10. It was like a good semi reboot. Um, it was a good way to bring the franchise back, but it wasn't anything amazing. And this one I thought was going to be that next level. It was going to get maybe darker. It was going to get explode. That it was going to take risks, and it was actually going to do something really good. And like I said earlier, very kind of jarring kind of film. And it's like it's probably more on the level of Rogue One,
Yes.
and it's kind of look and feel. So I would give it about a same as Rogue One, probably a 2.5 out of 5.
Yes. Yeah. So I mean, I would say probably about the same. I'd probably give this probably about a 6 out of 10. One of those films that you can have in the background. So I probably
Yeah.
wouldn't sit down to watch it, but I'd kind of have it in the background, and then when certain things come on, you'd look at it and be like, oh, that's quite cool. But it's not a sit down film that you kind of want to watch and stuff.
Because you would
It's
just fast forward the, you know, tortoise chase
yes,
space chase. As you'd fast forward that, you would fast forward the casino planet. It's just not there's not much kind of rewatch parts apart from, maybe the
no,
the actual battles are, but it's like there's things about this movie which is kind of a given. You've got like, great John Williams score as always. You've got kind of copy and paste space battles with the TIE fighters, X-Wings. That fight in the Red Room
yes.
is quite great, but it's very little else. Even the last kind of battle on that planet, um, they're using this kind of outdated junk um,
Yeah.
ships, and they don't really get into the battle. So I guess that was their idea of a risk. Oh, we're not going to show you a battle.
Mhm.
We'll just show you Rose smashing into Finn.
Yeah, I kind of felt by the end they'd given up because they wanted to leave it very open-ended because they haven't written the third one. So
Yeah,
because they haven't written the third one, they have no idea where they're going. And because they have no idea where they're going, it's like, okay, we have to leave it open-ended so that the writer for the last one, Chris Terrio and J.J. Abrams, can then go in whatever direction they kind of want. So I kind of thought the same thing. To me, it's too much of it's a bit of an ordeal to kind of watch. It's a very hard watch, and it seemed very long to me, and it's not just like I'm not going to sit down when that comes on in a couple of years time on Christmas. Not something
yeah.
I'm going to sit down and in that time and just watch and do that.
It really did drag by the time they got to the Salt Planet, the Rebel base. But a couple of things we actually missed out. Yoda.
Yes. Oh, yes, yes, yes.
So you have Luke Skywalker. He's ready to burn down the Jedi books and the tree, and then Yoda appears. Like I can understand what Yoda was saying. Like, well, you need to pass on your failures to Rey as well as your strengths and your knowledge. Like some people have complained, like how the hell is a ghost, causing lightning
Yes,
from
and
the clouds?
able to control the lightning. So it's kind of,
Yeah.
I mean, I can understand that because it's a movie at the end of the day, and movies sometimes have silly things in them, and I kind of just thought as a given is very much fan service for
Yeah.
for seeing Yoda and coming back again to see Luke and give him this kind of this silly idea, but it was very much like very much like in The Force Awakens, where people. The problem is when a lot of these films get made by committee, and then somebody goes and says, you know what, they were complaining that in the prequels it didn't feel like this and it didn't feel like that. So they
Yeah.
start to give you all these kind of familiar things. Oh, let's have a Yoda kind of thing. Let's make Luke's personality like Yoda, so people make it, think like it's like Star Wars and stuff.
Mm.
And it was just like that. By that point, I was kind of I'd already started to lose interest at that point, and I
Yeah.
was just thinking, where is this going? And the kind of scenes when I kind of, when I was seeing the Kylo Ren and Rey there together, I was like, this is mentally jarring, and the storyline's not really going anywhere. It's just kind of just gonna culminate in them two. Are they gonna go together and go and defeat Snoke, or is Snoke gonna get one of them, or what's gonna happen, or which one of them's gonna turn? And then after that point, after the throne scene, it just kind of turned into a complete mess because they didn't know where they went, where they wanted to go. And yeah, I mean, that whole third act, I'd completely lost interest by that
Yeah,
point.
yeah. And another thing about the scene where they burn down the tree, I was like, is Yoda actually going to let these books, these Jedi scripts, to get destroyed? But then you see later in the Millennium Falcon, right at the end, Finn opens a drawer. Right, he
And the
takes out
books are in there,
the
yeah.
books are in there. He takes out a blanket for Rose, but the books are in there. Whoever moved them there, what doesn't really matter. But I guess, like, I don't understand why Yoda is telling Skywalker that, oh, everything we need for the Jedi. I don't know if he did mean the Jedi will kind of begin again. All we should trust Rey with all that.
Yeah,
Like, I don't get this.
yeah. It's just,
And
it's
and
one of
and
those things,
and,
yeah.
and Kylo Ren is like, do you like, now that Snoke is dead? I guess he's the supreme leader.
Yes.
You don't really think of him as a leader, or he's
Yeah,
not,
because he threatens Hux, right? And he's like, basically Hux is now his little kind of, little kind of slave servant kind of thing, who's basically going to do anything that he wants him to do. Well, what are they going to do now?
Mm.
They're going to spend all of their time hunting down this resistance, and
There's only
I
about
don't know.
there's only about 50 of them left or something. So it's like,
Yeah,
not sure
and and
what's gonna happen.
and I don't have any kind of I don't have anything in me that thinks, do you know what, I can't wait till this comes out. I'm just thinking, okay, if it comes out, I'll check it out, but I'm not looking forward to it or anything like that.
Yeah. So do you have any interest in the Han Solo film?
Um, I mean, I'll check that out just because I want to see what a $400 million film looks like. But
From
yeah,
three directors.
yes, from three different directors. But yeah, I don't really have. They've set their stall now, right? And I was saying to the listeners at the start, there is a reason why we're doing this kind of talk there, and how it kind of links. We've seen all this stuff about Disney have taken over Fox, and this is a great thing because look what they're doing, and they're going to bring all these characters, and these characters are going to be done right and stuff like that. But it's like, once they get their claws into these other characters, they are all going to follow the exact same template as all of them follow. They're going to give you little bits that you've seen there. Little Disney have set out their stall. They've set out their Thor Ragnarok. That's their template. That's what they're going to use. This is what you're going to expect from now on.
Yeah.
They're gonna have bits. They're gonna have shocking bits where like people's eyes get gouged out, and people get cut in half and stuff like that. And that's gonna make people think, oh, this is really, really dark. This is edgy. This is whatever. But you're gonna get these silly little quips. You're going to get it looking like a parody. You're going to get it sounding like a parody. You're not going to recognize a lot of these characters, and it's all going to be done in a way that they're going to say it's like progression and say it's edgy, but really they are following the exact same template that they are doing in every single film. And it's worrying to me that you're going to see that in pretty much everything. So, you're going to start seeing, we've already, when they're talking about Shane Black doing Predator, when they start watching the first drafts of that, are they going to think, oh, we've got to add more humor into this Predator film?
Yeah.
Where's Alien going to go now? Where's films like The Shape of Water and all this kind of stuff? Are we going to get things like this, or are they going to all be kind of changed into like a Disney kind of arm? And I think that's the very worrying thing that we have. And I was willing to kind of let that go after watching Thor Ragnarok and thinking, do you know what, this is a kind of one-off and this is the route that they're going down. But then when I see Last Jedi, I'm like, this is now their template, and this is pretty much you're going to see with everything.
Yeah, so I would imagine the best kind of scenario for me would be they keep the 20th Century Fox kind of label, and they let them they have, I read somewhere they're going to have, Disney's going to let them have their own studio kind of lot on
Yes.
kind of lot, and hopefully they get to make the same kind of movies that they're making now, when it comes to films like Predator and stuff like that, Alien. But then they've also had, Miramax, Touchstone. So
Yes.
who knows if they might kind of revive or kind of put more money into those kind of films.
There's always hope, eh?
Yeah,
That is the
I mean,
thing.
when it comes to
So,
Star Wars, at least we've got like one more to go, Episode 9, and after that, I don't really care
yes. Yeah. Yeah. Let's
because
see.
the Rogue One was awful. I don't have much faith in the Han Solo film, and this trilogy that they said, new trilogy with
Ryan Johnson. Yeah.
by
I,
Ryan
that
Johnson. I think that's bullshit. I don't think they have any kind of plans for that. I think this is just them going, well, here's the director who's made this current film. This is how much faith we have in him. I refuse to believe they actually think this
yeah.
film is great.
And are they and the thing is that are they going to do that after the kind of audience response to this film? I don't know.
Yeah,
So yeah, I mean, it's once again, man, awesome chat
no problem.
about this. Hopefully, one day, man, we have to talk about a film that is actually we both like and could actually rave about it and say how great this film is.
Yeah,
Hopefully, that film will come up one day, and then we can rejoice about that. But
hopefully.
anyway, man, it's awesome to chat to you again. And yeah, guys, you can follow Shaker on at Film Gob on Twitter. He's also got a YouTube channel which is Film Gob there as well. Really funny videos, taking the mick out of all these bloggers and stuff. Is absolutely brilliant. Definitely check him out, guys. You can also email us on the views from the cave at yahoo.com. Find us on the Facebook page, and also find us on the Twitter page. You can tweet us there as well. We'll see you again soon. Me and Ash will see you again, and hopefully we'll be joined by Shaker again at some point. We'll see you guys again soon.